Right, you are. Okay. So welcome those of you that are here. We might get a few more people coming. My name's Sherry. I'm a patient engagement manager at South West London CCG, soon to be ICS. So today my role is just to talk to you a bit about what we're asking people to do within the community with regards to the vaccine, and to talk to you a little bit about active listening generally, which is probably something you're all very well versed in. But we'll take the opportunity to think about things today, about the kinds of things that might come up in conversation and perhaps how best to deal with them. And I'll introduce Claudette Allardyce, who at very short notice has joined us in case we get any tricky clinical questions.
Hello everyone, I'm here. I'm going to turn my camera off, but I'll be listening so I'm not distracting from Sherry's presentation. But
Marvellous.
If there's any queries, I will put the camera on and try and respond if they're clinical.
And just before you disappear, so you're a chief pharmacist, is that right?
I'm associate chief pharmacist, so a deputy chief pharmacist within South West London, but I'm currently on some secondment. I'm actually at one of the acute trusts in Croydon Health Services.
Super to have you. So if we've got any tricky conversations about the vaccine itself, hopefully you can help us with that.
Absolutely.
Marvellous. Thank you so much. Right, as we've only got a few people, I can just see that my colleague Nadine has joined us as well. Do people just want to say hello? You don't have to, but if you'd like to introduce yourself, you're very welcome to. If people, given that we're recording, if people do want to stay in the background, that's also fine. But I can see a couple of cameras have popped on, so I'll give you the chance to say hello. Nadine will definitely want to say hello. So hello, Nadine. Do you want to just a very quick introduction, Nadine?
Very quick introduction for me and my dog. We're in the car. It's Nadine Wyatt, Senior Engagement Manager, Sutton NHS. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, and it's great that the dog's here too. Very important that dogs have this training because they are required to listen to people very often. And I can see another face has popped up.
I'll say hello. Yeah, my name's Ricarda. I work at Kingston University and I'm a pharmacist as well. So I thought it was just really good to listen in and see what we can learn to share with our students.
Marvellous. 2 pharmacists on the call so far. Super. Right, now I can see some other names there, but if you'd prefer to stay in the background, you're very welcome to. I can see Rebecca said hello in the chat. If anyone else wants to say hello in the chat, that's fine. We don't want to put anyone in the spot. Right, so I will crack on then with my slides. So this is the bit where we see if the technology works. Bear with me while I try and share my slides. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, and we've gone straight to the end, so that's a good place to start. Right, okay, now I can't see people now. I can only see actually RM. I think that's Rebecca. So I hope that people can hear me. Claire, can you just go on audio and tell me that you can see the slides okay?
We can see the slides, we can hear you perfectly.
Marvellous, thank you. I shall crack on. So we're here today to talk to you about talking to people within the community about primarily the booster, but other things about vaccination and staying well too. So Claudette has joined us to help with technical questions, should you have them. So your role as a champion within the community, as a health champion, is really about, as it says here, in short, enabling people to have control over and improve their health. But in the current context, this is about ensuring people have the right information about the vaccine and how to stay safe over winter. As we all know, everything is happening super fast. There's an awful lot going on at the moment. The news is different every day, and I'm sure there's a great deal of anxiety out there in the community. So we want to make sure that when we're talking with people, we try to keep it very simple, and we try to provide those reassurances that I'm sure people are going to be looking to us for. So what we're talking to people about right now, I think, you know, you will have had to have been living in a cave or under a stone or something to not realise that we're asking everyone to have their booster. The messaging has been pretty clear about that, and it's on the telly every time you switch it on. If you're eligible, please book your booster. And people are doing that in their droves, and the queues are like round the block. So I think, this is an okay message. It's anyone over 18 that's had their second dose 3 months ago, although they can book from 2 months. So that's the main message at the moment. But hot off the press this morning is that for children aged 12 to 15, they're not quite at booster stage yet, but they can now book their second doses of their vaccination, as long as there's been a 3-month break since they had their first one. And there's the evergreen message: if you've not been vaccinated, please book to vaccinate. Now, that's the part where you will probably come in, because if people haven't been vaccinated at all, there's probably a bit more of a conversation that needs to be had about that. And then there are, of course, other messages that you might be having in your particular roles within the community about helping people stay safe over Christmas. It's all the common sense things. More guidance might come out from government about, well, the dreaded lockdown word, we don't know yet. There are rumours, but we've not been told that yet. So it's generally about common sense. Avoid crowded places, only go where you really need to, wear your masks, wash your hands. We still want people to have their flu jab if they haven't had that and they're eligible for it. And really importantly, we do want people to know the NHS is still there for them. We don't want people that could have, for example, potentially cancer symptoms, not going to their GP. We don't want people that have got chest pain or something like that, thinking that they can't call an ambulance, can't go to A&E. So it's really important that people understand that the NHS is still there for them for other serious things that could be wrong with them. And finally, in terms of your role as champions, people's mental health is never brilliant over Christmas. It can be a really bad time for an awful lot of people anyway. And we know that this situation is creating an awful lot of anxiety. So when you have conversations with people in whatever guise you have, it's always good to have to hand perhaps numbers for out of hours mental health services, Samaritans, and kind of ask people if they're okay, to make time to have that conversation, to ask people how they're feeling. But I'm going to get on to that in a bit when we talk about the listening generally. Let's just say a little bit more about vaccines, and then I'll pause to see if there are any questions and comments, and then we'll go on to a bit more about listening. Right, so these are some of the key messages that we're saying at the moment about the vaccine. So we're offering everybody the chance to book a booster vaccine by the end of the year. You know that. Why are we doing this? Well, because we kind of know that the 2 vaccines is not really protecting people against Omicron very effectively, but a booster does seem to really make a difference. So we know that a booster jab will prevent an awful lot of people from developing those more serious COVID symptoms. And as I'm sure you all know, if we don't encourage people to get their boosters, those numbers are already rising exponentially, and we could be in dire straits with the NHS being really overwhelmed. And then, of course, the NHS can't treat people with other serious illnesses. So I'm sure you're all aware of the seriousness of all of that. And vaccine centres, etc., opening hours have been extended to enable more people to get their booster, which takes me on to our next slide, which is various links. And you will be getting a copy of these slides, so you can see all of these links, because information is being updated every day. So there are some links on here about how people book. So if you're having a conversation with people, if you happen to be face to face with them, you can help them to book there and then perhaps. Information about walk-ins and pop-ups, that's being updated regularly. And most importantly, probably, is the frequently asked questions. There's a whole raft of those, which hopefully will cover anything that comes up. But it's again updated frequently. So should you get a question that's not on there, do let us know about that, and then we can update it, because I think people can sometimes surprise you with the kinds of questions they might ask. And just to give you a flavour of that, you may well, during your conversations already, have come across this sort of thing, but these are some of the really common things people have been asking about the booster. Am I eligible? We know the answer to that. If it's been 3 months since your last jab, then yes, you are. If it's been 2 months since your last jab, you can book, but you won't be able to have it yet. If you've not been vaccinated at all, well, go and get your first one. You can book for that in the same way. What vaccine are they using? I think it's primarily Pfizer. I'm sure Claudette can tell us more about that in a second. I'll come on to you in a minute, Claudette, to give us some more technical things here. And then other questions that they might ask about the vaccine. Does it matter if you mix them? No, it doesn't. Lots of us have had different vaccinations. Are the vaccines halal, kosher or vegan? They don't contain animal products, but people might want to take advice from their faith leaders about that, who are, on the whole, my understanding is very favourable about vaccines. What happens at a vaccine site? We can talk to people about what to expect. And in terms of side effects, we can maybe tell them something about the common things that people are experiencing, which in the main is a sore arm and possibly feeling a bit tired, maybe having some cold symptoms for about 24 hours or so. Obviously, that does differ from person to person. But you can find a lot more information and a lot more detail, including things like exactly what is in the vaccine, via that link, which takes you to our FAQs page. So we never expect people, when you're sitting there with someone, not everyone is a clinician, not everyone will have clinical information that they can impart just off the top of their head. So that's fine. We don't expect everybody to suddenly be confident conversations. There we go. This should be it. Oh, it's doing something fancy. What have I done? PowerPoint Live. Oh, right. Okay. Can you see that all right? I can see your faces now as well as my slides. Right. You know, I was talking about people not being confident with technology. I fear I'm one of those. We need a young person to do this. Right. Okay. I think I've just found a fancier way of doing my slides, actually. So, an approach to brief interventions. Now, some of you that work in the kind of public health or clinical world will be familiar with make every contact count. And the idea of that is any opportunity you have to talk with somebody about their health and well-being, you do this brief intervention. You get an opportunity to make a bit of a difference to their lifestyle, their health and well-being. So we're kind of using that approach to talk to people about vaccines and about staying safe. So it's thinking about any opportunities you have to talk with people within your community about their health over the winter. So much of this, I'm sure, will be stuff that you already do and you already know, but we'll just run through it quickly anyway, because it's quite a nice thing to do. So the first thing, think about how you're going to open the conversation with people and how you're going to ask questions to get them to talk about how they feel. I mean, even though we're doing a brief intervention and we would like them to have their jab, really we're inviting them to talk to us about what they want to talk about. We want to be listening to them first and foremost. I mean, with any of us, it's true that we don't want someone to come in with a hard sell and tell us what we must be doing. Everyone appreciates the opportunity to be listened to. And that's so important, I think, when it comes to the vaccine. People have been bombarded with information and are being told time and again, you must do this, you must do this. And quite understandably, some people are pretty anxious about it and are not very keen to get vaccinated. And I think we can have sympathy with why they might feel that way. So the real important thing, I think, is that we do make time to listen to people so they feel heard and that their concerns are taken seriously and are listened to. So the first thing is really about, how do you feel? Are you okay? What are you worried about? Talk to me about it. And based on what they come to us with and what we hear, then we can decide what kind of information might really help them. And yeah, think about who your audience is. Who is it that you're talking with today? What kind of experiences might they have had in their lives? What kind of experiences might they have had of health services, which might not always be positive? So what do you think might be helpful for them today? What's worrying them the most? So just some thoughts that, although we're hoping they will go on to have their vaccination, what you're doing when you're being a champion, when you're in this role, is you're more counsellor than salesperson. You are there to help them to feel that they are listened to, that they are valued, and that we're not just going to dismiss their fears. We're not just going to dismiss their views and their experiences. So as I say, this is all quite common sense, but it's quite a nice thing to go through again, to spend some time reflecting on these things. So once we've done the ask bit, how are you doing today? It's helping them to find that information and advice. And if we don't, as this comes back to, if we don't have the printed materials, can we access that information and advice for them, which hopefully you can through the links we've provided, and help them with their questions. We won't always have the answers to everything, but we will be able to find someone that does know the answers. So if you get stuck, you've got my contact details at the end here, and I won't be dealing with things on my own either. I've got a whole team of NHS people that we can ask, including the likes of Claudette and other people that really do understand medicines, which is not something I understand. So there's ask, assist, and then act. Obviously, when we're talking about brief interventions, the hope is that once we've listened to people and helped them with information, they will take an action. And in this case, that action is hopefully getting vaccinated, which will probably be their booster, but might even be their first or second vaccination. It could even be that the vaccination they're needing is their flu jab, which is still really important. We don't want that to get lost. We still would like people to have their flu jab if they're eligible for that. And I've put something in here because this has come up a lot in our conversations with our engagement leads that are out there talking to communities every day, is there are reasons why people aren't trusting us. They're not trusting the NHS, and they're certainly not trusting the state, because people have had bad experiences. We all know about Windrush. There's been this very controversial borders bill that's come through. People have experienced racism, structural racism, and other forms of prejudice, and might not have had a good experience. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge that, and we don't try to gloss over it. So when we're talking with people, we need to understand those lived experiences that they might have had and be sensitive to those in how we approach them, and consider what support and reassurance might help them. We would like to persuade them ultimately, but we don't want to be a bully about it. We want to kind of help and encourage and support and provide the right information that people need to hopefully make a decision that we truly believe will keep them and their families safe. So, a little bit about active listening, which is ironic when I'm sitting here just talking at you for ages. What do we want to understand? We want to really listen to them so we understand where they're coming from. We understand who they are and the kind of experiences that they might have. And we want to give them the opportunity to express themselves so that they feel that we are listening in a meaningful way. And of course, the more we understand where they're coming from, the more we'll be able to give them the right advice that they need right now to hopefully make decisions to improve their health. So, do you think you're a good active listener? Hopefully everybody does, but it does take a bit of practice. And I'm sure those of you that are in very engagement type roles will know that it does take some practice to really be present, to really be with somebody and really focus on what they have to say, rather than straight away thinking about what our solutions are. It is something that does take a little bit of practice to really be present with people, really listen, reflect back to them what it is you believe you're hearing, to make sure that you are on the same page. Now, of course, it says here using verbal and non-verbal techniques. This is what can be so much more difficult when we're online or when we're on the other end of a phone, that we don't have that full arsenal of communication techniques that we'd usually have. So I think it's even more important that we indicate how much we are listening and that we are understanding. And here, and oh, nearly at the end of these actually. This is my last slide. Is looking after yourself. Now, I said right back near the beginning that one of the things that we do want to talk to people about keeping safe over winter is their mental well-being. I think that almost runs the risk of being a bit lost in everything else that we're pushing out there at the moment, re the vaccine. Is mental health or poor mental health is a real big problem. There are an awful lot of people at the moment feeling very low, feeling very anxious, feeling very overwhelmed. And I think it's really important that we're mindful of that in the people that we're supporting and in ourselves as well. It's something I do with our team quite a lot, is try and remind them about looking after themselves, because with another hat on, I'm a humanist chaplain, so I try to bring that into my work about reminding people that, you know, you need to take time out to look after yourself as well. And it can be, if you're listening to people that are in distress, that are anxious, that are really worried about the vaccine and what might happen to them, really worried about COVID and what might happen to them, or may well have lost people to COVID. It can be a lot to take on yourself and can leave you feeling quite emotionally tired. So make sure that you're taking time out, whatever you're doing this winter, to look after yourself as well and take a break from that. Hello, Brian. Yes, my cat's just come in. So yeah, think about what does help you, what lifts your mood, what hobbies. For me, it's putting myself into the cold Thames. That really helps me. So I try to make time to do that a couple of times a week. Or maybe going for a run or taking a walk in a green space. All of those things, I know they can sound a bit trivial, but they can really help you to just take your mind off all of the stuff that's happening. And yeah, if you're not looking after yourself, you can't be there for other people. So it's really important that you do practice self-care, look out for yourself in order that you can better support other people. And then my very last slide is just my email address. So I'm not doing this by any means on my own. Claire and a man who's not on this call, we're working together on this whole booster program, but we have a whole army of people, including Nadine, who are out there working with communities in our boroughs. And we've of course got wonderful clinicians like Claudette that we can call upon to help us with the more tricky clinical questions. So although you've got my contact detail here as someone you can come to with your questions, I will of course be fielding those out to people that actually know the answers. So I'm going to just close that down. If there's nothing else, I'll just give you one more opportunity in case anybody wants to say anything. But no, I'm hoping that means that everyone is happy. We hopefully have a log of everybody that's attended today. I'm sure we will have. So we'll send you the slides of today that have my contact details on should you have any questions. I think Helen's typing, so I'll just see Helen has anything else to say, and I'll just quickly put my email address in the chat as well, which is jerry.fuller@swl.nhs.uk. So that's me, if anybody thinks of anything later on today that they want to ask me.
And I'll do the same, just in case anyone prefers to say something or something more in depth on a clinical matter, on a one-on-one. I'll put it in my email in the chat also.
Lovely. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you joining us today. It's nice for me as a comms and engagement person to have somebody clinical here because those are the things that I can't help with. Marvellous. So we've got Claudette's email address in the chat there as well. So even if you're waiting for the slides, in the meantime, if you have any questions, there you go. You can contact us with those. You're welcome, Kavita, and thank you everyone for joining us. And if I don't talk to any of you again this side of Christmas, I hope you have a lovely Christmas, Yule, or whatever you might be celebrating. And yeah, stay safe and stay well, and don't forget to continue to look after yourselves and after your mental health, and take a break from all the madness if you can. And ta-ta for now.